Christie.
Hi, Jeff.
We're recording now.
The many hours of conversation you and I have had, we've had probably half of them that haven't been recorded.
You know what we should do? We should start a podcast.
You think? Let's call it The Why and the Buy.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Why and the Buy podcast. Christie, how the hell are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. We have a repeat offender. We only allow the best guests to come back more than once on the Why and the Buy. And a guy who knows a thing or two about the best salespeople out there is Scott Ingram. You may have heard him. If you haven't heard him, you need to go and find him because he's great. The Sales Success Stories podcast is tearing up the charts on iTunes and other podcast playing apps as well because it's really good. You want to know what the best do, listen to them. Or if you're Scott Ingram, you interview them. Thanks for being here again. Scott, how are you today?
It's a pleasure. I am fantastic. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how do you not invite this guy back? You know, what's funny is you come back for a lot of the reasons that Christie and I started this thing in the first place is that we just get on the phone sometimes to talk about sales. And it's like, damn it, Scott, we got to stop right here. Get on your computer. Let's record this call for crying out loud and make it something worth sharing. So it's cool. I always enjoy our conversations, and we should probably do that more often too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to cover our topic today and the importance of mentorship. And Scott, I know this is a topic that really resonates with you in some of the conversations that you've had on your podcasts. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to come back and talk about this today.
Yeah, it's a big topic. So on my show, I only interview number one salespeople. So they're either the number one person in their organization, or the only time I'll make an exception is if they work for a huge organization. So when I talk to somebody from ADP or Microsoft and just these massive organizations, I'm willing to settle for the top 1%. And one of the things that's really come out of those conversations, because I'm always looking for the themes and the trends and kind of the consistencies that we can apply. Nobody has ever said to me, Scott, you know what really made a difference in my life was this one training program I went to. But what many of them speak about is the mentors, the great leaders and bosses they've had, and just the other role models they've had, and the way that they have sought out the folks who've been number one before them. And I think that there is so much to this idea of finding great mentors to lift yourself up and learn and accelerate your success. But it's also a two-way street, and you have to find ways to mentor others and give back. And the reality is oftentimes you get more when you're mentoring because it reinforces those lessons and you sort of see things, and it helps you just realize things that maybe you knew, but needed to hear that again. And coming from yourself, it's absolutely incredible.
Well, I mean, talk to Christie about being a coach, and she'll tell you that a good coach helps the client understand what they already know. And it's just about bringing that out. And I think a good mentor, if they don't do that, they at least show you what you maybe think is possible, but don't have the guts to try. Or they may just kind of through their behavior, their words, their actions, the way that they talk, not just the words that they use, kind of set an example. In that, I mean, look, when I was starting, and I don't know about you two, but when I was starting, I didn't know what was going on. I was just handed a sample bag and some shiny 3-colored brochures and go get them, Tiger, have some fun. And you don't know what's what. You don't know what to do. You don't know what not to do. And you just kind of figure, all right, I guess if I just get out there, good stuff's going to happen, right? I mean, it's not till someone can take some time to work with you, help you understand some of the concepts and principles that underlie what successful ends up being, that you really have any context for how to do this thing. And that's what I love about your show, Scott, is that through all of the episodes that are there, and you've got people from different fields, different industries, but they're all top performers, and there are themes to top performers, but they're not doing it the same way. So you get some sort of context for what should be done, but you're left to really, as the sales rep, especially someone who's new or still in the early stages of their career, you're still given a lot of leeway to do it the way you think is the right way. And I think that's the beauty of what we all do.
Yeah, it's one of the folks I talked to, Jacqueline Nicholson, is one of the top sellers at a company called Percolate. And she has had a lot of mentors. She has done a lot of mentoring, but she's also worked with a coach and does some coaching herself. And we had a good conversation about the difference between those two things because they are different, right? There's one that it's kind of a one-way street, right? When it's a coach, I give you money, you give me information and insight and help make me better. I don't have to listen to you. Or, well, that's not true, but right, you're not there to listen, right? You're there to get help and to get assistance. And that's a different function than what a mentor is, because a mentor is absolutely a two-way street and it's a relationship. And so you have to realize there's a time and place for each of those things. One of the other guests who may be the most mind-blowing that I've spoken with, a gentleman named Trong Nguyen, was managing a $50 million book of business at Microsoft, doing, I kid you not, game-changing, and I'm not using that word lightly, game-changing deals in healthcare and financial services and incredibly challenging industries. And the way that he developed mentors in so many different specific ways to solve different challenges, and mentors within his clients to help him navigate and understand how to work within that organization. And what's interesting about that is he is the most giving and the most willing to turn that around and to help other people. And as you know, I'm getting ready to launch this event to really solve this challenge called the Sales Success Summit. And Trong was the first person who said, Scott, I am all in. I will do whatever you want. I'm there. I will be in Austin May 7th and 8th. So it's really been an incredible, incredible adventure to watch the best of the best and how willing they are to give back because they've received so much.
And that's not surprising.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, one of the interesting things that I like that both of you did is that you made a distinction between mentoring and coaching. And, in the coaching world, you spend a lot of time understanding which one is which, because oftentimes you can play both roles. And really a mentor is someone that does have experience in the thing that you are doing, right? They have walked a mile in your shoes at some point in your or in their path to success. A coach may or may not have any experience specifically in what it is you are doing. But what they are there to do is to help you figure out what the right answers are. And there are no wrong answers in that scenario. So in a mentoring scenario, it's super important for everyone who is a top performer or wants to be a top performer that you have both. You've got to go find that person who's walked that walk. And you need to have that sounding board, that individual that's going to help you figure out things for yourself as well. And some mentors can definitely cover both aspects. And I love the fact that you found someone who's had a mentor and who is also giving back and mentoring others as well.
But how in your experience, the both of you, how would you suggest that, and I see this question come across LinkedIn on a fairly regular basis, how do you suggest that people go about finding mentors? Every organization does not inherently have one. There are people in sales organizations who could play the role, but they don't always want to play the role, and that's okay. How do you suggest that a salesperson finds a mentor, or is it as simple as finding a job where someone's willing to perform that role?
Yeah, I think in my experience, and most of the mentors I've had, I don't know that we've called it a mentoring relationship. It's just the type of relationship that we've had, and oftentimes it's not that formal. I feel like, Jeff, you and I have mentored each other around improving our podcasts and putting out a better show and all the ins and outs that go around that. That's often how it comes about. And I think really what you want to find is somebody who is further ahead of you in an area that you want to improve, and you appreciate the way that they're doing it, right? Not just the result, but are they doing it in a way that you would be comfortable doing it? And then it's just spending time. And I'll work on pulling together a series of clips. And I think I did a page for you guys last time, so I'll have to create a new one. We'll call this one, I'll put it on top1.fm/why buy two. And I don't know what the first one was called, but I know that'll keep me safe. And I'll work on pulling together, because I create a lot of different clips from the interviews that I've done, because my interviews are rather lengthy. But there's been a lot of conversations around mentoring and how to find them. And I think it'll be really valuable to hear from others who have gotten to the top, that have really leveraged this technique. And there's some great insights there. And a lot of it is, find ways to give back first. What can you add value around? And just, again, at the end of the day, it's really just finding ways to spend time with each other. One of the people that comes to mind is Kyle Gutzler. And Kyle doubled his sales in a single year, just really got focused. And we went into all the details of how he did that in his episode. One of the things he did is he identified, these are all the top salespeople in my organization. Well, I'm just going to organize a regular gathering of those people. Well, hello, that has tons of value.
Yeah.
The idea of bringing people together is an incredibly valuable thing. So it's not something, this is selfish for me, I need you all to come together and bow down to me and give me all of your answers. No, it's a collaborative thing. We're all going to help each other, and we're all going to get better, and everybody benefits from that. And they appreciate Kyle, even though at the time he was the low man on the totem pole. Now he ended up lapping them. But that's the way it goes.
Well, and that's, again, not surprising, right? Because you have the initiative to get all those people together in the same room. And, I've been mentored by a lot of people, some more than others. But I think what got me to the point in those relationships was, hey, you know more than me. I'm going to be willing to be vulnerable and humbled by the fact that I'm not the best salesperson in the room right now, and that you could probably teach me something. I'm also going to be bold enough to ask you about that thing that I think you can teach me. And curiosity goes a long way when it comes to that. I think along the same line, it's really the same approach to learning things about your customers and your prospects is, hey, I've got this question. I'm thinking, I'm really paying attention to where you're at and where you're coming from. And I don't totally understand this. Help me understand it. And then when they're willing to, hey, a lot of times that's a really good exchange. You know what? We should probably do this again. And then before long, you've got a full-blown relationship going on here like anything else. And it can really be that simple. That's the thing that kind of dazzles me about these questions. How does someone go about finding a mentor? What are the questions you should ask? What kind of an interview process should you have for a mentorship program? Like, hey, you think I know something you don't? Just ask me about it. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And you know what? If you buy me a beer, I might buy the next round. If I'm really enjoying myself, why can't it all be that simple?
That was the key word right there, right? Beer. So
usually
that's it, right? Like, hey,
it is the connecting force for most of the world. Yes.
Jeff, can I buy you a beer? Can I buy you a coffee? Right. Yeah. I think that's where it starts. It's not rocket science, right? Get them out one-on-one, share a meal, share a drink, share all of the above. And that's where it really starts. And one thing that I think is really important that we talk about is what that relationship then looks like as you're going through it. And one of the things that I see that's absolutely maddening and crazy frustrating for folks who are mentoring is if I'm giving you ideas and making suggestions, don't tell me why I'm wrong or why you're better or why you know it all, right? When the way that you bring a mentor into your fold is you listen. You have to be an absolute sponge. And the best thing you can do is not give them gifts. The gift that you give them is listening to what they say and acting on those things and then reporting back and saying, hey, Jeff, you suggested I try X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. I tried that. Here were my results. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. I'd love to talk to you about this more. I promise you're going to get another meeting. And Jeff, that's the time they'll probably buy you beer.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Right.
That's the thing. 'Cause I like beer, but that also, It's funny. I've got this, my newsletter goes out and there's often a banner ad there and the page is always up, but there's often a banner ad. You want to talk about sales? You want to talk about a problem you're having? Click on this link, go to this page. It's bookme.name/Jeff Bajorek. You can go there. All the listeners can go there if you want. You want to talk about something? Let's talk about it. And they say, okay, well, how much does that cost? I'm like, I just like talking. If it works out for you, if it works out for you, tell me, and maybe I'll learn something too. But literally, I make myself available to talk about sales with other people who are inspired by the process because it enriches everybody involved. And hey,
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
you think there's really something great that you want me to dig a little bit deeper into, and you want me to come, work with your company or whatever? Great, that's an awesome unintended consequence. But let's just have a conversation first, because it's something I really like to do. And I think most of the people who mentor, and Christie, I'm sure you've got thoughts on this too, but most of the people who are interested in mentor have a genuine vigor for what it is they're doing in the first place. And so mentorship is not really a chore as much as it's just an opportunity to have cool conversations.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things I was interested in learning from you, Scott, is of the people that you've talked to about this topic, how often are there mentors inside the company they're working at? Because I found that some of my best mentors over the years have been one step removed, right? So we'll interact at certain events, but they weren't necessarily in the organization I was working in. They just happened to be a kindred spirit, and they were 2 or 3 steps ahead of me in their career path. I'm interested to hear what the consensus has been on the Sales Success Stories podcast.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I was actually giving that deep thought on my walk this morning, because I see my show in a lot of ways, and the opportunity that I try to provide for the people who come on and come as guests on the show. This is an opportunity for them to mentor at scale, right? These are top sales professionals. They're extraordinarily busy. It's not like they have a ton of time to do this. They don't have time for 30 people to reach out to them and mentor all of them. But they can have one conversation with me, and thousands of people can listen to that. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is exactly what you just suggested, right? Do you go to the number one person in your organization, which is easy in that they're easy to identify, right? I can find who the number one person in my organization is, and I can get to them, and we kind of work in the same place. That's good, and I think it's a yes and type of situation. You should do that.
Yeah.
The challenge there and the risk there is when you're talking to too many people in the same organization or the same industry even, it creates this echo chamber, and you start just hearing the same stuff, and it might be wrong, but we've all said it to each other so many dang times, it sounds like it must be the truth. And
Right.
That's why I have really tried hard, especially of late, to, while the vast majority of my audience are B2B sales professionals, in recent episodes, I've had a car sales guy, I've had a real estate agent, and now these aren't ordinary salespeople. The car sales guy sold 1,600 cars in 3 years, and the real estate agent is doing about a transaction a week on average. So they're certainly way above and beyond. But I think there's, in some cases, more to be learned from those folks, because they just bring a completely different perspective that is not my B2B SaaS technical marketing, kind of sales world where we're all saying and thinking the same thing. I think we have to break that mold in a lot of ways. So exactly to your point, I think this is a place where diversification is powerful.
Yeah.
And one does not need one mentor. One needs a many mentors, and for lots of different things, to get lots of different perspectives. And it's people in your company, in your industry, outside of your industry, in adjacent roles. And again, going back to what Trong was talking about, find mentors in your clients, make mentors of your customers, because my gosh, can they teach you about, hey, here's what's working to get a meeting with me right now. And they'll have a million examples of what's not working. That's easy. But what's working to get my attention, and what's working to get my budget and make an impact to what I'm doing? And man, when you can build those types of relationships with your clients, again, massively powerful, not just from the direct business from them, but they probably know other people like themselves. So you've got referrals, you've got references. It is incredible.
I have a secret for our audience, and I'm going to get really close to the microphone and I'm going to say it nice and soft, okay? So that nobody hears it more than, who needs to hear it. But
our format is not changing, by the way, just in case you missed it.
Listen, if you can get your best customer to tell you why they bought from you, why they make the decisions, how they make the decisions they make, guess what? Other customers like them may have similar decision-making processes, okay? Your customers will teach you how to sell to them and other customers like them if you'll only ask. And it's a big secret because only the people who can hear it when I whisper seem to understand that. I don't know why that is the case. It's really not that complicated. It's such a simple thing that it gets overlooked. Sometimes it's just, it takes talking to other people to realize that kind of thing exists, that it's there. Just ask the question if you've got the guts to do it.
Well, in the startup world, there's a saying, and I'll try not to butcher it, that is, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. Right. And Colin Spector, I think it was Colin. Again, I'll find quotes and we'll put them on top1.fm/why buy two. I'll have to remember that.
I've got it written down, Scott. It's going to be all right.
Perfect. So he had this process where when he first got into his role, brand new industry, never sold these services before. I think what he did was brilliant because what he spent more time not worrying about the speeds and the feeds of his solution. He went to learn about his buyer and why they made these decisions and why they did those things. And that there's your secret, Jeff. I mean, if you can get inside your buyer's head and understand the way they think, the way they make decisions, what they value, you are miles ahead of your competitor that's going to tell you all about the features and benefits of their stupid product.
We working in medical device sales, we'd often have orthopedic surgeons come to our sales meetings, and they would say, okay, well, they do the survey. What do you want to hear from the surgeon? What do you want to hear him talk about? What do you want to hear them say? And inevitably, it would be an early design surgeon telling us about the design rationale of the component that they helped create, or it would be someone talking about the benefits of this particular implant, whatever it was. And product training from a surgeon really doesn't help me. But if I can sit with a surgeon at dinner and ask questions about, what are you thinking? Why? Okay, great. So this particular swoop or curve on this implant, whatever, it's just pretty to me, but what does it do for you functionally? And what are you thinking about? And when you can take them 2, sometimes 3 questions away from that initial statement, then you get to the underlying reason that they made that decision. And I don't know how many times, one of the sayings that we have, not in tech, but, in orthopedics was perfect is the enemy of really, really good. And sometimes when you strive for perfection, how about funny that I messed up that word? When you strive for perfection, especially with a bone saw in your hand, sometimes you can make really good, really bad in really fast, right? And so, sometimes, when you can make it perfect, but you're really, really good, the goal is not to make it perfect because you bring bad stuff into play. And when you learn that about how a customer makes a decision, I could really shoot for the moon here, but I bring, hell in a handbasket into play. It's, you get a feel for their decision-making process in a context that you couldn't by just asking them what they like about the features and benefits of your particular product. And I mean, the customer is a mentor. Scott, I've never thought about it that way, but that's exactly what that is.
Yeah. So Scott, you're actually going to tackle this head on, right? So how do you find a mentor? What do you go through in this process? You're creating an event specifically for individual contributors that are looking for that to to build that network of mentors, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, Christie. So, all that I've done in the last year. So I launched my podcast a year ago, and that was really about scratching my own itch, because there just isn't, I think sales is changing dramatically these days. And there wasn't enough content from people who are in the field at the top of their game to really get into what is it that they're doing. Similarly, so I've got that challenge solved, right? We were 30 episodes or so into that, and continuing to release new episodes every 2 weeks. So that's great. The next thing that I saw was, and again, this is so much about my own frustration, and darn it, why doesn't this exist? If you were to Google, the best events for sales professionals, and you'd find, lists of, here's the top 10 or here's the top 20. What's interesting about that is, in my research, 0 of those top 20 events for sales professionals are geared towards the individual contributor. They're
right.
all about the sales leader, sales operations, sales enablement, entrepreneurs, everybody but those of us who are carrying a bag and have a quota hanging over our heads. And so now that I have these, frankly, mentoring relationships with so many of the folks that I have spent time with interviewing on my podcast, I wanted to share that. Well, okay, it's actually much more selfish than that. I wanted to hang out with them. So I thought, okay, well, everybody wants to come to Austin, and I'm in Austin, so that's perfect, and it's in the middle of the country. So why don't we bring everybody together? So I'm launching an event May 7th and 8th called the Sales Success Summit. It's very intentionally in the middle of a quarter, at the beginning of a month, and on a Monday and Tuesday to have the least amount of impact on those of us who have a quota, because I don't want to disrupt your sales and what you're doing. And Austin is a freaking cool place, especially in May. So it creates an opportunity if you want to fly out on a Friday and spend the weekend and just check out Austin because you've wanted to. This is that opportunity. And then I'm just trying to create an amazing experience. I have been to, as I'm sure you guys have, way too many crappy events in hotel conference rooms where you sit in a row of chairs that's somehow linked to the chair next to you, and it's wildly uncomfortable and it just sucks. So we're doing an event in the Alamo Drafthouse, which is a local movie theater chain where, one, it's a movie theater, that's kind of cool, but two, the Alamo Drafthouse is a full service kind of theater. So there's a little table in front of you. There are little minions who will bring you food and drink. It's a full service experience, right? So it's a full menu, it's a full bar. They will bring you whatever you want over the course of the day. So we're just going to spend time together. All of the presentations are going to be from guests who have been on my show, which means by definition, they are an active sales professional at the very top of their game. Or, now to be fair, many of these people are very good. And when you're very good, you have lots of opportunities. So a number of my guests have moved into different leadership roles. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about career pathing. But more importantly, it's just about digging in and understanding what's working today from the best of the best, and not that type of event where you just sit back and you consume presentations, but a lot of interactions, and it will be very intimate. The ratio that I'm shooting for minimum is 1 to 10 in terms of the presenters to the guests. And we will have a dine around, and we will go out to smaller dinners where you can choose, hey, this is the person that I want to learn more from, or you can certainly make your dinner selection based on the fact that you want to check out some Austin barbecue or some great Tex-Mex. That's totally an option too. Ideally, we'll get you the perfect combination of, this is the people that I want to spend time with, and this is the place that I want to spend time with. And that's what we're bringing together. And I am so excited about what we're bringing together here. It's going to be an amazing event.
The most successful collection of salespeople ever assembled in one place at one time in Austin, Texas, May 7th and 8th, 2018. Scott, where can they find more about it?
Yeah, so that website is top1.fm/summit. We will have all of the details, and I absolutely have a special for your audience. If they will enter the referral code WHY, we will give them $150 off their attendance to that event. And the first pricing cliff on this, I know we're releasing this in November. I'm pretty sure the first pricing cliff is going to be December 15th. So that's the best opportunity to get the best price based on timing and the best discount available. I really appreciate your taking time with me again and sharing this idea with your audience. And I hope they'll come join us.
Such a cool idea.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I love Austin. And I think the size of the event itself is so appealing given the audience. I think it's just going to be a lot of rich interaction and engagement.
Yeah, we may grow it in future years, and in fact, I'm sure we will. But for this first one, we are literally going to contain it and limit it to one theater, not all the screens, one screen, one room, everybody in one place, so that we can really get to know each other, spend some time together, and improve massively.
It's so cool. I'm going to do everything I can to get there because I just
me too.
I get inspired by that level of talent in that kind of a room, and beer, Scott. You said there was going to be beer.
There is going to be beer and mimosas and Bloody Marys and whatever you want people to bring you.
Sounds like a sales meeting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's not play that up too much, but that's definitely the idea. The other thing I think that lends itself really well with this timing is an opportunity for teams to come together. So if you're a sales leader and you need to host a QBR, why not bring them to Austin? Why not spend a day and a half with us and then get together as a team and ride that momentum, ride that energy into what that means for your business and your territory planning and things of that. And we'd love to have some groups, and certainly happy to connect them with resources so that they can find good venues and a way to extend that experience.
Awesome.
Excellent. Austin in May.
Austin I'm ready. In May. The webpage is top1.fm/summit. Go there. The website's awesome. You're going to really appreciate what is offered to you there, the information that you get. And go to Austin in May. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with Christie. Come hang out with Scott if he's got time when he's not running a show. Let's do this. I think this is really going to be something cool. It's definitely unique. I've never heard of anything like this. This does not... and I know you've got event partners and things like that, but this doesn't sound like the typical salesperson event where it's designed simply to sell a bunch of people a bunch of stuff. This is about mentorship. This is about learning. This is about getting better. And if you want to take the next step in your career, you got to do stuff like this. This is going to be special. So thanks a bunch, Scott, for coming back. We'll have to have you again in the future, hopefully before next year's event as it gets done, the year number 2. But I really like where you're headed with this. There's a lot of momentum running toward it, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Christie. It's always great to talk with you.
Excellent. Love it.
So Scott knows his why.
That's right, because when you know your why, your hows and your whats get much better.
Every single time. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
I told you once, I've told you twice. I told myself it doesn't matter.
How about the music on this podcast? We call them our house band. They call themselves Haskins, and they're based out of Plymouth, Michigan. If you want to hear more from them, go to haskinsmusic.com and check them out. Hey, thanks for listening to us on the Why and the Buy podcast. If you like us, tell us. Send us a message at the Why and the Buy on Twitter, or leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you got this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Talk to you next week.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.